Well, hello, this is David McElroy for the Human Potential Channel, property of First Fusion Capital. And I have with me today Jason Nemitz, a friend of my gosh, we go back almost 3 decades, something
Yeah.
close to that by now, huh? And we met in the lending business. We worked together at Wells Fargo. Jason has gone on to have a tremendous success. And as you know, the topics in this show are to have you, the audience, learn from the experience of those that have come before you and not just how they've succeeded in business. What's more important is how they think. And Jason and I can both admit that just making money doesn't lead to happiness unless you've already found out how to be happy before you got there. So tell them, Jason, a little bit about your company, you, the trials and tribulations you've gone through, and how you see thinking properly can have someone really take advantage of what I see as some of the best opportunities in business I've seen in my entire career.
Yeah, man. Well, number one, thanks for having me on. This is fun. I love doing this kind of stuff. Um, you know, to kind of take what you said in your opener, I'm going to go back to 2008. I was still in the mortgage business, and I had pretty much built my business around the fringe lending that was available back then. When I first got into mortgage, I recognized that a 780 credit score, 20% down is a good easy customer, but every bank in the world was writing those customers. Every good loan officer in the world could do that in their sleep. They didn't pay very well. And I liked the deep subprime, secondary FHA, secondary VA, super jumbo, pay option arms, anything that had high yield. And I think I took a lot of that out of my time in the car business. What it did, though, is it created a business that was predicated on being able to offer those loans. And in 2008, those were the first loans to go away in the big mortgage collapse. And I remember my last day in business, we closed on a deal. Everybody exchanged keys. We had a funding number. Moving truck was in the driveway, and I get a call from the title company, and they said that they had gotten a fax back after sending in for the funding that bank was no longer solvent, and if they weren't funded by noon Eastern, we didn't have a loan. And that was my last day. I knew I was out of business immediately. And what it led to was a mindset of fear. I didn't know what I was going to do. I've always been an eat what you kill guy. Nobody's going to write me a check for showing up. That doesn't happen, not for me. And I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I let that paralyze me for about 4 months. And in those 4 months, my financial world collapsed around me. And to the point that I sold my house to an investor friend and leased it back so I didn't get foreclosed on. Got a little cash out of it, but it didn't really help me. Both my cars got repossessed. It got to the point where my last straw was a change jar with $38 in it, a wife and 3 kids who really didn't know the full gravity of what I was going through. And I faked sick on a Halloween. I didn't want to go to a Halloween party. You can imagine my mindset was not that.
Of course.
And my wife won't watch movies that she thinks is going to make her cry. And so I had always wanted to see the movie Cinderella Man. It was kind of out at the time. And the story's about a guy that's a boxer and right before the Great Depression, he's making a lot of money. Great Depression hits. There's no boxing. He's fighting in back alleys. He's working on the docks. It was a dismal picture in this movie. And I remember sitting on the couch thinking, man, you're not in the Great Depression. You're in the greatest country on earth. There's a booming economy. Your pride won't let you do the work that's available to you to feed your family. And that's the problem. You need to go to work. It doesn't matter what kind of work it is, you need to go to work. And so I got a job waiting tables at Papa Do's. And I remember, not trying to be dramatic, I pulled up in the parking lot to go in and apply, and I threw up in the parking lot. I was so gutted, and my ego was crushed. I felt like my life was really in a bad place. Interestingly, I got the job. the general manager was like, "Why are you here?" And I told him, I said, "I'm here because I need to feed my family." And he said, "You're not going to be here very long." I said, "I'll be here as long as I have to be, but I'll give you everything I got while I'm here." And he hired me. I was only there for 14 weeks total. The reason that's important is I got a W-2 at the end of that year for almost $30,000 in 14 weeks. And during those 14 weeks is when I got a phone call from a friend of mine wanting to know if I wanted to come sell roofing with him. And I was like, ugh, no.
Why would I want to do that?
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And I hung the phone up and my wife said, "Really, dude, you want to put the bow tie on and go sell some more fish? Like, you should go talk to these guys." And they hired me and it launched my career in roofing, something I didn't want to do, didn't know anything about, but I needed the work. What's important about the story isn't that I was broke or that my mindset wasn't right, or what's important about the story is, and I think you may have shared this with me at one time, Dave, you're a mentor of mine, and I owe a lot of who I am today to the influence that you had on me in a time when I really didn't have much of a rudder and I hadn't really achieved much, certainly not compared to what I think I was capable of. And you really helped me find that in some interesting ways. And I think you said this to me one time. You said, "You can't wait to feel better to act. You've got to act your way into feeling better. You don't know how long it's going to take to feel better." Well, I found out 4 months wasn't enough. I didn't feel better after 4 months. The longer I waited, the more paralyzed I was, the worse it got, the more dread there was, the less clarity I had. So had I not gotten up and gotten that job waiting tables, there's no way I could have walked into a roofing company feeling good enough about who I am, what I'm capable of. I got to that restaurant, I kicked ass. I mean, I needed money. I was there every day, whether I had a shift scheduled or not. There's always some hungover dude that wants to go home, right?
Yeah.
And so the feeling better about the activity I had decided to engage in just to feed my family is what put me in a mindset that gave me the clarity to look at a new opportunity and say, "Yeah, I can do this. It's hard, but I can do it." Within
So
6 months.
think about this being frozen, which most people spend most of their life being frozen at various levels. You can get a certain level of success and be frozen there, not be
Oh,
fulfilled, and still be stuck, right?
oh,
So, how
absolutely.
did you get yourself from "I give up"? You were in the "I give up" mode, right? Almost like you were winding down to just disappear from the planet. How did you get yourself to take that first step to do something you didn't want that actually made you sick to your stomach?
Um, the fear of not being able to provide for my family was greater than anything else that was going on. And it took one night away from putting on the airs for my wife and my kids and acting like everything's okay for me to wrestle with, where are you? What are your options? And what are you willing to do? And that was it. It was just not accepting failure.
So, what I'm hearing is you needed something, a why that was bigger
Yeah,
than yourself, right?
absolutely.
And you fortunately had that.
I have a theory. If it wasn't for women, men would have invented automobiles, beer, and football. About it. I mean, I don't need a whole lot for me, right? If it's
Yeah.
just me, I'm a pretty simple guy. So the things that do drive me are my family and I have a wonderful marriage. I have 3 awesome kids. And so, yeah, and now that's developed into, I think I might have shared this with you before, Dave. I don't really have a tremendous amount of passion for the function of my business. What we actually do as a function isn't all that exciting. I tear the roof you have off and I put another one on that looks damn near just like it. It's not
Yeah.
exciting. Nobody's looking forward to it. It's usually we have to do this, not we want to do this. It's not like my construction side. It's function with a little bit of form scattered in.
They're
So
thinking, I wish we didn't have to do this. It's really
yeah,
what they're
most of
thinking,
my
right?
customers really, it's just we have to do it. Not really excited about it. It's expensive. It's invasive. What I'm passionate about and what drives me is the relationships I have, the people who send me thank you letters that nobody else knows about. Nobody knows about those thank you letters. They're mine, and they mean so much. And I did a roof for a lady this week. Her husband died, just got ill, and had no insurance on the house. Tons of financial woes that she wasn't aware of. Things are falling down around her, and she can't even get insurance on the house because the roof was so bad. And I was able to help her. And, you know, that feels good. It feels good to be in a position to say, you know, not everything I do has a dollar attached to it.
Right.
And you know, the deals that come along that we make more money than maybe we should on paper, you're like, wow, this one kind of worked out really well, super easy. Customers were happy. You know, those deals, we never go to them and say, hey, you paid too much. Here's some money back, right?
Right.
You never send a check back to the insurance company. So in my mind, if we can slow down and appreciate that sometimes people don't have the resources they need to take care of a practical issue, to be able to step in and help those folks is pretty cool. Those are the kind of things that drive me now, that I don't get out of bed in the morning. I bounce out of bed, and I do it early in the morning, and I do it with joy in my heart. And it never feels like, ah, I've got to go to work. There's never a Sunday evening where I get the blues because the weekend's over. I don't go on vacation to get away from my
what
wife.
does your morning routine look like? Because I found that successful people they don't maybe even realize it, but they've got a let's get ready to go routine that kicks them into the world.
You're darn right. It's changed over the years. There's been times where I've had routines that I think this isn't productive. I'm doing it, but it's not productive. My routine now is I set an alarm that I don't need, because I wake up about 3 minutes before my alarm goes off. I rub my dog's belly, I kiss my wife on the cheek. I get in the shower. It takes me 7 minutes to get in and out of the shower and ready to go. I put my clothes on. I get in my truck. I check my calendar. I check my voicemail. I check all my socials. People reach out to me in the weirdest ways. I've actually been guilty of not checking one thing at the wrong time and missed opportunity. And I go straight to the office, and I spend the first 2 hours of my day in quiet time before jobs start, before people get to the office, before anybody, telemarketers, nobody can get to me in those hours. And I do all the stuff that takes focus, that takes brain power, and that I don't want to be interrupted to do. And typically by about 7:30 or 8 in the morning, the hardest things that I have planned for my day are done. And that is a result of me spending years of having my day that I had planned really well getting hijacked by 7:30 in the morning because something's haywire on a job, or somebody didn't order material, or pick a thing. There's always something that's going to take you off your day. And so that's my morning routine. Couple cups of coffee. I mean, it's pretty focused. It doesn't change much. If something forces it to change, it kind of throws my whole day off.
Sure.
I don't want to have anybody put something in that part of my day. It almost feels sacred, if that makes any sense.
It is for me. I have a morning routine, starts at 4 a.m. I do set the alarm because then it allows me not to worry I'll oversleep. I always wake up before the alarm, but if the alarm wasn't set, I'd be waking up thinking I was going to oversleep.
Oh, absolutely. You fret about it. Well, and that's why we keep calendars, and that's why we set appointments. And, you know, and if anybody calls me and says, hey, can you come over to my house right now? The answer is always no. Even if I've got nothing on my calendar, because I work a calendar. Right. And everybody who's ever worked with me knows I work a calendar. And that's why I'm prompt, and I don't miss appointments, and I'm not rushed, and I don't take phone calls in the middle of meetings, because I work a calendar. So I think what we are talking about is, regardless of what it is, if you figure out what makes you the most productive, what I spent years working in a way that I thought people needed me to work so they would see I'm working. And when I let go of that and started realizing that if I work in a way that truly works for me and how I'm wired, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing. If I'm productive and I know I'm productive, I don't care what it looks like.
It's interesting you say that, because I know people that spend their whole life for appearances.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether there's in fact, the productivity is the facade. And I worked at Wells Fargo, where the biggest paid people were masters of appearance, and all the guys that made the big money managed up. So you didn't really pay much attention to the people below you because they couldn't really elevate you. You were playing your politics to go up and making sure you toed the line, whether you believed it or not, gave the appearance that you were telling your staff to do the same thing. And I'm assuming that Wells Fargo is not unique. And I'm not blaming Wells Fargo for being a bad company. It's very common in large corporations.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in an interesting way, that's kind of my leadership philosophy. My people know what their roles are. They know what's expected, and they know that if they are achieving their goals and they're hitting their KPIs and the things that we expected them are being done, I don't really care what it looks like for them either. So I'm not sitting here like, hey, 425, where are you? I don't care where they are, unless I've got a pissed off customer on the phone, or money's not collected, or sales aren't getting done, or pick a thing. So it's not just how I'm productive. It's that if I have to micromanage 10 people, well, now I'm actually having to do a job to get other people to do their jobs that I don't even like the job I have, because it's forcing me to operate in a way that doesn't feel productive to me. It feels redundant. It feels like I'm babysitting. I don't want to babysit. So in my environment, if you don't understand your role, if you understand your role, but you're not willing to get up off the couch and go do the work, or you just don't have your shit together enough to function in my world, you just don't make it. Yeah, I don't even have to fire people. They weed themselves out. They know that this isn't the place for them. And it's because we hold them accountable, but it's not in the traditional sense. It's not like, hey, it's 8:05, where are you?
You're not measuring the clock of what they're doing. You're measuring their. In fact, I've said this many times before. If I could find someone that could work an hour a day and they were productive, I'd take them over someone that works 8 hours a day, works, right? The appearance doesn't give me the productivity.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side of that, if it's all hands on deck and it's Saturday and I need X, Y, and Z, I don't want to hear anything about it. I know it's Saturday. It's my Saturday too. So the give and take is we work the hardest when we're needed. That's it. And
so what you ask, you give them freedom and you ask for flexibility.
Absolutely.
When there's a crisis, I give you freedom. When there's a crisis, I need you to pull back from that freedom. Come help me, because we're in this together.
Hey, if I'm out of town, I need everybody to pick up a little extra slack.
Yeah.
But if you're out of town, I'm gonna do the same thing for you. It's really as communal as it sounds. It kind of is. It's kind of like, hey, if we're not all working toward the same thing and we're not all towing the same row here, you're not going to make it.
When we talk about perceptions, I listen to economics because I'm in international finance. I listen to it mostly on YouTube, where I can pick and choose what I want to listen to. And I've been listening for the last 3 years of people saying we're in a recession. We're not in a recession. We're going to be in a recession. We're not going to have a recession. And what I'm wondering is, what impact should that have on what you're doing as a person or as a business person, whether the term recession is or isn't active? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think the impact is different for transactional minded people than it is for relationship minded people. I think I've experienced firsthand that I've developed relationships with people who are not recession minded people. In other words, okay, great, there's a recession, or there's not, or what it doesn't dictate their activity. It doesn't change how they attack their day. A lot of my relationships are with people who the whims of the economy don't necessarily dictate what they do or don't do financially, either with their homes or in their personal lives or in their businesses. And so I'll give you an example. The COVID experience, I was terrified. I'm in home services. I'm used to being in your house at your coffee table, 7 o'clock at night, signing documents when people are home, right? I mean, that's just always been my world. And I was terrified that COVID was going to disrupt my business so much that we might not make it. It was quite the opposite. There was so much business during COVID. We had to adjust how we got to that business, but we didn't skip a beat. The first maybe say 30 days after, I remember when the NBA canceled the rest of their season, to me, that was the day COVID started. It was just like, wow, I've never seen that before. This is real. Whether you like it or not, whether you get it or not, whether it makes any sense, it's real. After that first 30-day lull, it's like the world woke back up, but it wasn't the whole world. It was just my world. The realtors that I do business with were still selling real estate. The bankers that were lending money were still lending money. The movers and shakers were still moving and shaking. They were just doing it in an environment. It was like a snow globe. It's like it just got shook up. But so I think that if you're transactional in the way you approach your business and you're just looking for your next deal, I think the rumblings, whether it's merit or not, have a lot more impact on your business than if you're relational.
And if you're transactional, you're always meeting strangers. Now,
Absolutely.
in every business, you need to be meeting strangers. But ideally, 80% of your business over time becomes referrals. That might be a high expectation, but 80%. And then there's 20% where you're always in the cold market looking for replacements for the people that fall out of your orbit. They move away, they pass away, something happens, so they're no longer clients. And you don't want to be hunting for a replacement when your income is dropping down into subsistence, right? You want to be planning ahead of time. It sounds like you've learned to do that.
I have, and there's I think that there's a human nature component. You can tell when you're being sold versus served. And I'm a good salesman. I'm a real good salesman. I can hammer close better than a hammer closer. I know how, and I don't do it. And there's a reason for that. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like the attitude of, I put them under the ether long enough to get a signature, and the minute I leave, they're like, dude, I just got sold again. Like you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I think that when you approach your business in a relational way, you really are cultivating that next person to fill in that gap you're talking about when somebody rolls off or gets out of the business or dies or
So let me ask you this: when you go out on an appointment with someone you don't know,
okay,
what mindset do you have when you go into that appointment?
I'm going to ask them so many questions that they're going to forget they were meeting a stranger. I want to know real stuff. I'm not there to sell. I'm not there to yammer. I want to know about that person. There's something interesting about what happens when you ask people questions and let them talk and then just be quiet until they're out of breath. And then you ask them another question and you ask them another question. The things people will share with you is almost unbelievable.
I talk to strangers internationally almost every day on Zoom calls. And there's a lot of, there's going through a lot that will turn into nothing if you're measuring the economics of it in what I do. It's just that the small percentage that turn into something has a huge financial reward. So I found that in order to get through all the sifting, I needed to do what you talked about. I just thought, okay, I'm going to meet a person, have no idea whether I'll like them, they'll like me, whether we can or can't do business, whether I don't have any idea, but I'm going to see if I can learn something. And maybe if they're interested, maybe I can teach them something and just enjoy them. And my whole prospecting life changed. And I've had so much fun with so many people that I've never done any business with, but it was nice having met them.
I love that. I think I experienced this yesterday. I met a guy I'd never met him before. It was a kind of a high level networking environment, which can be stressful for people. I know that. I think the mistake in most people's networking approach, if you're going to engage in something that's kind of a corporate environment where everybody's kind of there for the same reason. I think one of the mistakes that's commonly made is that you feel like you need to have 100 business cards. There's 60 people in the room. You need to make sure you say hi, glad hand, give them a card, kind of crop dust the whole room. And then follow up and this like this feverish, and it never seems to really work. I've always kind of felt like if there's one person you can figure out who the person in the room you really need to know is and spend some time with them. I think if you make one good connection, well, I had an opportunity yesterday and I kind of felt myself in this kind of like, I don't really want to be here right now. It was about 60 people in the room and I knew a few of them, but you're not there to talk to the people you know. And there was a guy that was just kind of interesting and I asked him a few questions and he started talking. And I asked him a few more questions. He started talking. I don't know if there's a business opportunity for me with this guy or not. But I can tell you this, roofing is the tire shop of construction. It doesn't matter what you drive. The tires are going to wear out. And when you go to discount, it doesn't matter if you have a $1,500 Honda or a $50,000 Acura. The tires cost the same and they always have to be replaced. And part of what I enjoy about what I do is that I don't have to go and try to figure out who might or might not be an opportunity. Every human I interact with is under a roof every day and every night. And so I take some of the stress off. But the main important part of that point is not why it's comfortable. It developed this dialogue with a guy that I didn't know him from Adam. And in 40 minutes, we made a connection. We found some common ground. He invited me out to his office in Dallas, wants to have lunch. He's an attorney, wants to show me his practice. He's proud of it. That feels so much better than glad handing and trying to, you got your hat in your hand. Please, sir, can I have another? It's not that.
It's like being a politician. Vote for me. Vote, kiss your baby. Vote for me. Vote for me.
Yeah, right. And the funny thing is, because of that, we were having such a good time. There were people milling over to where we were, wanting to know, well, who are you guys, and what are y'all talking about, and what are you doing?
Why are you having fun? Because we sure aren't. That's what they wanted to know.
And then this realtor's like, oh my gosh, one of my clients just called me today, and they need a roofer, and my roofer that I've been using kind of did one of my clients dirty, and I'm kind of like, I don't have a guy anymore. And she texted me his number, and we're going out to see him tomorrow. So the point is, if I was transactional, I never could have found the realtor that had the client that needed me tomorrow. Never would have happened. But because it was relational and it looked lighthearted, like what we're doing,
Yeah.
You're not selling me, I'm not selling you.
No.
Right? And it became an attraction. And then that attraction became a conversation. The conversation became a lead, a real live, I'm going to make money off the lead. And I got a really cool connection out of it that who knows where it could lead. So I think that's, to go back to the question about the economy, recession, non-recession, bubble, no bubble, real estate's great, real estate sucks. Everything's better for everybody when real estate's good. I'm a firm believer of that. It's a driver of our economy. We know it. Real estate's the shark and the rest of us are suckerfish, and it works. But I've never had a year where real estate's down and we're out of business, or real estate's through the roof and all of a sudden we quadrupled our sales. I don't think it's the only factor. I don't think the market or finances or interest rates or recession or boom or bust or bear or bull, I don't really think that has as much of a direct impact on small business as most small business owners think. I think that's head trash. And I think you can buy into it too much on one side, and I think you can overreact to it on the other.
If you think about the size of the economy, even just in DFW, where you and I live, it's not possible, no matter what's going on, that everyone has stopped buying everything. It's not possible. So some portion of the population may be financially troubled. Some portion may be lost their job, illness, some portion that's always going to happen. And maybe it's a bigger out of, I don't know how many millions of people are here, but even if it was 30% that had some problem that made it dysfunctional, well, you still got 70% left over that need to live, right?
It's a giant pie. And all we need is a tiny sliver of that pie.
If you and I tried to get 10% of our market here, we couldn't do it. We wouldn't have enough man hours in the day to do it.
Be impossible.
Yeah.
And that, that's a scarcity mindset that you're touching on there, that I'm not getting my fair share, or how come this guy's doing so much more business than I'm doing? Man, keeping your nose in your own book and really focus it in on whatever it is, whatever if your mantra is, I'm going to sell more roofs than any other company in the Metroplex, then that's great. But what does that really mean? I had a guy one time tell me, he says, I don't want to know what your annual sales are. I could care less. That's it's a skewed number. What did you put in your pocket? How effective are you being? How efficient are you? How profitable are you? How many times are you underbidding a competitor to get the work, and then you look up and you netted -3% at the end of the day? Like, you have to really understand what it is that you're trying to achieve in the bigger scheme of things. If you just look at numbers and ticks on the bedpost, so to speak, that's not a way to measure, and it'll keep you up at night. I know every now and then I slip into that.
If you're selling on price and that's all you're selling, then it's a race to bankruptcy. It's a race down, because there's always someone that will do on the surface what appears to be the same job for less money. But in reality, really quality people, when you think about it, when you go in, if you needed heart surgery, you say, hey, honey, would you get the yellow pages? I'd like to find the cheapest surgeon that we can in the area that will do my heart surgery for me. Is that what you would do? I got a brain tumor.
No.
Let me see if I can find the cheapest guy that will. No, you want guys that have waiting lists of people to try to get into them.
I heard a really good concept one time, and it really helped me a lot in my business. We all have a consumer mentality. That's one of our biggest problems as business owners and salespeople. It's just kind of have a consumer mentality. It's like, why would a guy pay me $5,000 more if they can get it from this guy for $5,000 less? So it's just kind of a practical, quandary from time to time. And this concept was, there's nothing wrong with being mindful about what you do with your money. In fact, it's prudent. But you need to learn how to prioritize where that matters and where it doesn't.
Yeah.
You might not need a Lexus if you can get a really nice Toyota, which, by the way, I can't tell the difference in some of them. I'm getting some Toyotas now, and I'm like, oh, this thing's freaking nice. I mean, yeah. So you can, there's times when that's really prudent, but when it comes to your health, or it comes to home services, or it comes to your financial well-being, when we were in mortgage, it would always burn me up when somebody, well, this guy's an 1/8 of a point less in rate. Okay, man, $7 a month. Like, at the end of the day, dude, $7 a month. And there's lots of rebuttals to that, and there's, overcoming objection and those types of things. But what I've tried to do in my business is create a business and create a persona that I'm not having to justify my worth, that it's self-evident. And the people who see it are my customers, and the people who don't see it aren't. And it's so easy. It's just easy. I'm not trying to convince people. I want to be educational. I want to be thoughtful. I want to give people's concerns the right amount of attention. But at the end of the day, I would feel that probably 70% of the time, if I personally show up for a customer, they've already decided on their guy. It's just details. I don't feel like I'm really truly selling. I feel like I'm providing a service. I feel like I'm educating. And when people don't see that value, I feel it before they do. And I'll usually nip it in the bud. Like, help me understand what's important to you. Well, I want a good deal. Well, tell me what that looks like. They don't even know. They think it's money. It's not.
Well, that's because
$1.
Dave,
if I blow your house up while I'm roofing it, you want to make sure I can build another one that looks just like it? Oh, you do? Great. Here's my insurance.
Because it's easy to understand the difference between 99 cents and $1. It's hard to understand and be discerning to pick someone that can give you good value. That's a more complex task. And some people don't know how to manage that task, right? They're uncomfortable with it, so they default down to something they can grasp.
Price.
Yeah.
People's lack of confidence in their own decision making blows my mind.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have a function for a job that don't make decisions, they simply perform a function, they're at a disadvantage because they're not in a decision. I make so many decisions that when I'm not at work, I don't want to decide. Man, where are we going for dinner? I don't care. I'll eat anything. I don't want to make another decision. I'm confident in my decision making because I do it a lot. I'm sensitive to the fact that a lot of people aren't confident in their decision making. And the hard part is to get them to the point where they go, I'm not confident in any of this. I need help. I had an old guy one time, Dave. He was old school. He had an insurance claim, didn't understand it. Probably had never had a big insurance claim before. Probably hadn't filed a big insurance claim before. And I have a process that I just simply don't vary from. It's the same. It's the same every time. And one of the things the guy was not wanting to do was share his insurance claim information with me. He just didn't want to help. He didn't want to show me the map. And he wanted this, he wanted that. He was just he was trying to take what he knew from horse trading his whole life and apply it to a complex process. And I was really stuck with this dude. And I finally just quit. I realized you're not going to just tell this guy what to do. He's not going to listen. And I said, Bob, if you're lost on the mountain and you see a Sherpa, you probably ought to follow him. Follow that guy. And he sat there and he goes, I'm lost on the mountain. I go, yeah, dude, you are.
And there's no shame in that. There is no shame in that.
And he went and got his paperwork.
Yeah.
And it was easy from there, but he just didn't, it took him a minute to realize I'm as lost can be. He didn't understand any of it. It's okay. He's not supposed to understand it.
No.
But he needed somebody to help him off the mountain, and he just didn't realize it until he did.
Yeah. Well, you must have been patient. If you were feeling some irritation, I'm guessing you overrode that with figuring out what's really going on in this guy. You got puzzled.
I'm irritated with me when I'm irritated. I got irritated with a lady yesterday on the phone. I wasn't irritated. She's wanting me to do things that don't need to be done because she's nervous.
Yeah.
And I took a breath and I said something, and she goes, well, I can hear the frustration in your voice. And I said, well, then let me apologize for that. Because what I'm frustrated with is my inability to articulate to you why what you're asking me for is completely unnecessary. So my frustration is not with you. It's not with the request. It's with my inability to slow down, understand why this is important to you, and help you through it. So I apologize. I'm frustrated with me, not you. And she thanked me. She's like, thank you. I said, you're welcome. I said, so here's what I'm going to do. And she goes, thank you. I was like, you're welcome. And it was easy. But I was frustrated with me, not her. And she heard it and called me on it. And I like that. I like it when people feel comfortable enough to say, hey, I hear the frustration in your voice right now. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing it.
She helped you. She actually helped you to be better at communicating. You let go of that.
Serve her. That's all. My job isn't to be right. My job is to serve her and to give her the confidence that she wasn't my customer. The prior owner of the home was. And that roof's been on that house for 4 years. We got 6 inches of rain in 6 hours. And the roof leaked a little bit. Every roof in town can leak a little bit when you give it 6 inches of rain, wind-driven rain for 6 hours.
Yeah.
You let me pick a spot on your roof and hit it with a water hose for 6 hours. It's going to leak. It happens. She just couldn't get her mind around how that's possible. And so she wanted me to take all these steps. And there wasn't any step to take. We've been on the roof. Everything's basically intact. She had one little area that got overloaded with 6 inches of rain over 6 hours, and the water level got above my roofing, and it came in through a little opening above flashings. In 1,000 rainstorms, it'll never happen again. It's almost physically impossible. She was just wigged out with that answer. And I get it. I don't like the answer, but it's the truth, right? So,
in fact, if you built every roof to withstand the 1 in 100 year, nobody'd want to pay for the roof.
No, and
you'd have to do things
because it wouldn't breathe. It wouldn't. There's so many things, but again, how would she know that? And
You can't.
she's got one guy to trust, and and she wasn't ever even my customer. So we have no relationship, we have no connection. The only thing she has is I'm a good contractor. I have a warranty on the roof. She called me. In my mind, we settled it. The other thing, frustrating, I had 30 calls just like it, not from roofs I've already done, but we're juggling high volume and this, and she's wanting me to do things that are not revenue producing
Right.
and are unnecessary. So my frustration was not being able to get to a place where she had the confidence that we were as done as we're going to be, and she just kept pressing and pressing and pressing. So I wasn't frustrated with her, but I think that's going back to the relational versus transactional.
But you know what? You just said something there that's powerful. And I've realized this myself. Nobody has the ability to make me irritated. Only I have the choice to be irritated. So then the next question is, for example, I'm very irritated by people that need to back into their parking space. You may do this, and I like you very much. But when someone does that, it just upsets me. And I'll see cars are backing up around the block while this guy's going back and forth. I'm thinking, are you going to rob the store? You need to be ready to like take off in a flash. I mean, why are you trying to prove that you're more manly because you're doing? I don't get it. And I thought, okay, why would that make me mad? That's a good question. I mean, if I'm in a hurry to get someplace and they're an obstacle, okay, I'm frustrated, right? Did I leave too late? I mean, you can go back, right? How did I cause this?
I'm tracking 1,000%. 1,000%. And it is, there's trigger there somewhere. I think a lot of times I know I'm guilty of this. I assign intention to actions. I create a narrative. I don't know this person. They didn't wake up this morning to upset me, but I create a narrative that they're this, that, or the other, and it's all based on an action or an activity or a gesture. And we do that. I do it. I think what's important is to recognize that when we interact with our customers or potential customers, they've created a narrative around what's about to happen. They're pulling from experiences. I remember one time you telling me you were doing a remodel on this was 25 years ago. You're doing a remodel. You asked them to repaint a door a different color and they hit you a change order for $600. I remember the discussion. Now that I'm a contractor, I remember it every time I do a change order.
Yeah.
But and I remember thinking, yeah, that seems ludicrous. But now that I'm a contractor, it doesn't seem ludicrous. But what seems ludicrous to me now as a contractor is that guy didn't give you one chance to be ready to see a $600 change order. Hey, Dave, happy to paint the door a different color, but you realize because we used a lacquer, we're gonna have to actually strip it down and then prime it and then repaint it, and it's gonna cost $600. Are you sure you don't like red? Right? So once the work's done, and now, so the point I'm getting at is we create these narratives, and we probably fail to recognize often enough that when we're about to go engage with another human on any level, that they're doing the same thing. They've created a narrative, they're drawing from past experience, good or bad. Most people don't draw very many good experiences when they're going into an interaction where it involves money and negotiating and trust. And I'll tell you one of the things, and I tell people this all the time, Dave. When you've got the wrong contractor, when it's too late. It's already too late. That's when you know. The money's spent, the work's not to your liking or completed. He's asking for more money. You want him to finish what he's already started for the money he said, and you're getting nowhere, and he packs his tools up and he goes home. That's when you know. So how do you know not to hire that guy? You don't. You got to use a lot of different input pieces. And that's where, for my business, it's the referral, it's the Google reviews, it's the website, it's, everything I do is designed to give me a little bit of an upper hand over the other two guys they called. Because just figuring it out on your own blindly is almost impossible. Because everybody's a good salesman. you know?
When you're selling promises, that's an easy job, right? But
Yeah.
selling results, that's a harder job.
It's like one of my favorites. The highest paid guy in the operating room is not the surgeon, it's the anesthesiologist. And the reason for that is anybody in the room can put you under. In fact, the anesthesiologist doesn't even hit the plunger. A nurse does that. If there's a problem, he's the only guy that can bring you back. You don't pay to get put under, you pay to get brought back. And that's my business. It's your business too. How many of your customers have gone millions of dollars in the hole and we're still no further down the path than we were?
Yeah, I'm in a field where 99% of people offering services are lying. And not only are you not going to get what you were promised, they might run off with your money.
Yeah,
So most
exactly.
people come to me when I have a good offer with suspicion. They don't know me. I'm just another slick talking guy trying to take their money.
If there's 100 rubber duckies in the tub and only one of them's got a little magic number on the bottom that says this is the right guy, how do you know which rubber ducky to pick?
It's a complex process.
Yeah, I'm right.
And you can't just go on gut instinct. That's not enough. That's a good way to be taken advantage of. You have to have a better process than that.
Some of the people I like the most in the world are crooks.
Yeah.
I love them.
That's why they're successful crooks.
I like to spend time with them. I like to hang out with them and drink beer. They're fun to be around, but they'll
Yeah.
steal from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, in fact, some of the best people at what they do, I don't particularly care for personally. It's okay. I'll still hire them because they do it better than anybody.
They're
I don't need
skilled.
the value.
They're skilled. They're just not socially, they don't
They're not like
care.
me. They're not like me.
Yeah.
So if they're not like me, I don't want to hang out with them socially, but I don't need my financial planner to be like me. I need to be better than me.
You
Different
don't
than
go to them for fun. You go for a
no.
result, which is in
Yeah,
protecting your money and growing.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, since we have so many opinions on the economy and lots of opinions on roofing, and you've been through every type of economy possible in roofing, plus moving parts inside your business that have nothing to do with the economy you've had to manage. If you were to pick one thing that you'd like to share with our audience that anybody could easily do, but most people never will, that will have a profound bearing on your entire life, what would that thing be?
Figure your shit out for real. Your real stuff, your personal stuff, the things that shape your worldview, the things that give you head trash, the whatever the narrative that little voice in your head that's telling you you're not good enough or you don't belong at the table or you're not a part of or they're judging you or they're going to find out you're a fraud or your anger issues or your relationship. Why can't I keep the good people in my life? Why do I attract the wrong people in my life? I would say do whatever it takes to learn what makes you tick. Why are you the way you are? The things that you struggle with as a human, whatever those things are, figure out where they come from and wrestle with it. And don't be afraid to upset the apple cart in the process. I went through that process. I got to a point about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, where grown men were asking me my advice, business, marriage, parenting, and it didn't feel like a fit. I thought, why are they asking me this? I don't feel equipped to give good answers. I felt like there was a responsibility attached to the ask. And all I could come around to was I'm doing something that seems appealing to other people, but in my own heart, in the back of my mind, I didn't feel like I deserved it. And I wanted to figure that out. And I went through, well, I mean, you're never really done once you start that process, but I went through about 5 years of really untangling that for myself with a lot of help. And it changed my marriage. It changed my relationship with my children. It changed my business. And it put me in a place where I now feel if somebody comes to me for my advice or my opinion, I don't feel um, like they should ask somebody else. Like my advice or opinions can't be trusted.
So
And
that's
it,
an interesting statement, Jason, because what it sounds like to me is that you asked yourself, why don't I like myself? Why don't I love myself? Why don't I feel worthy? Those are deep questions to ask.
all right.
But what you're telling me is you got answers to those questions, which doesn't mean you don't still have puzzles that come up on an ongoing basis, right? It's a constant
It's a
grooming
never ending.
process.
Nobody, how many really successful people do you know that say, Dave, I made it. I'm there. I don't know one.
No.
I don't know one successful person that says, I'm there. I've done it. I did it all. I'm a finished product. I don't know one single really truly successful person that thinks that. And so part of my problem is I was always chasing that moment where I felt like I arrived. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I'd broken through. I was there. I achieved. I've achieved so much, Dave, that it's almost embarrassing. And I don't even, it doesn't feel like that to me. And it's because that's not what drives me, right? All this stuff back here, I'm proud of it. It's
Yeah.
doesn't drive me.
Yeah.
It lifts me up to have somebody say, you did something unique or special, and so here's some recognition for that. But it's not the reason I bounce out of bed in the morning at all. So yeah, you know, looking inward and feeling really good about what you see is not easy, but it's pretty cool when you get there. And some of it is just recognizing like, I'm kind of always going to be a little bit of an asshole. It's just kind of who I am. But I'm also loving and caring and self-aware. And when I have those moments, I'll be the first one to walk right back in the same office I just left and go, hey, that was a little heavy-handed. That's on me. That's not what I meant. Dude, the people around me forgive me. They know immediately. I've got customers I've had to call them. Well, the lady yesterday. Hey, I'm frustrated with me, not you. I apologize. I didn't realize I was being that way. I couldn't have done that 10 years ago. I just would have been pissed. Hey, lady, you're not even my customer. I took care of the warranty issue. If you want something else, then call somebody else. I'm not going to make any money off of this.
Right.
I don't have time for this.
That's right.
Right? I mean, the person on the other end of that call feels small and marginalized and unimportant. And man, who wants to lead that impression? But I would do it daily. I would do it daily. And so I would say that, most people don't fail or succeed because they're exponentially smarter or in fact, some people that succeed aren't very smart at all. They just figure it out.
In
And
fact, that's an interesting point because I consider myself average intelligence, but I can attract to me highly skilled people in specific areas that could do what I couldn't do if I studied for the rest of my life. And they like to do it for me because I can bring business in and they're incapable of that. And they look at me and what I do or what you do, and they think, how does he do that? And you can't really explain it to them.
rainmakers are baffling to the average person. Most salespeople don't fail because they can't perform the function. They fail because they can't influence enough people fast enough. And somebody who has that gift just kind of almost seems natural. It's baffling to the guy that has better work ethic and that's smarter, and so there's a little magic attached to it. And one of the things that's been holding me back my whole life is that I relied so heavily on that God given nature of just being able to walk out the door and be a little bit better than average without really trying. I was kind of banking on that, and it has a lifespan. And you get to a point where the people who do have the work ethic and who do have uh, the drive will surpass you. And I experienced that a lot. I never really broke through in mortgage. I got so close so many times, and I never broke through. And one of the things that I was able to recognize in my time in the roofing business is that there were a couple of times where I started kind of getting close to breaking through, and I felt the self-sabotage, and I felt the psyche, I felt the stress, and I thought, oh my gosh, I recognize this. I've been here before. And again, it was one of those things that I knew there was something. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it. And I could never have figured it out by myself. But I was really blessed to have some really cool people around me. I still have them in my life.
When you started getting successful, did you start having that feeling like this doesn't feel right? This seems like it's money starting to come in. It seems to be easier. This doesn't feel right. Something must be wrong. And you start looking for what's wrong, and you start actually getting paranoid that something's wrong.
Yes. Even to the point that, so before I bought my partner out, I'd kind of gotten to a role in my company where I didn't really have a daily function. I wasn't required to be present for any one particular thing, because I'm a rainmaker. So nobody really, one of our key people, this was about 10 years ago, one of our customers said, what does Jason do? He said, I don't really know, but he does it really well.
Yeah, it is. You need people like us to make things happen, but we need great operational people and functionaries that are skilled and pleased in that role. Otherwise, all the rain we made would fall on dead earth.
Well, and I know this about myself. I've got great vision and ideas, and man, I can fire stuff out. Hey, we should do this, that, and the other. I have very little capacity to actually make it happen. It's not my gift. But somebody sitting right to my right can say, hey, that thing you just said, that's a really good idea. And we definitely need to make that happen. And I can help you do it. And we need it's absolutely 1000%. We have to have those people. I could make a fortune doing this from my living room by myself. When I say fortune, Dave, I'm talking like work 20 hours a week. I could probably crack close to $750,000 a year in my pocket, but I'd be doing it alone, and I would hate it. It would make me so sad, and I wouldn't be very good at it. And I'm not wired that way. And what they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
I'm not go alone guy. I have moments of that. I have moments where I'm like, I need you guys to leave me alone because we need $100,000 in sales, and I'll go make it happen. But I can only do it in spurts. I don't enjoy it. It feels lonely. It's not an enjoyable experience for me. So, part of what I enjoy about my business is the community of people around me, my employees, my subcontractors, my referral partners, my business relationships, the people that I don't have to ever tell somebody who I am when I call for a question or to get some help. It's because I have that capital built up. Dave, I don't know how much time we have. I have one story I want to tell you.
Yeah.
Well, I bought my partner out. I woke up not even a year later. It was about 10 months into the buyout. And I'm not a big detail guy when it comes to the books and all that other stuff. And man, I was mashing the gas and we were scaling, and I had a really great business coach, and we were going for it. And I was $420,000 in the hole. Now, when I mean in the hole, I'm not talking debt. I'm talking did the work, collected the money, and owed suppliers and vendors and subs, and it was money owed that we didn't have. And I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? Like, it was terrifying. And, you can get money, it's easy, but not if you're $500,000 in the hole. Right? Like, you can't go to the bank that day. You need to go when you got 300,000 in the bank and like, hey, I think I'm going to need 800 grand, and you're cool. And I took some drastic measures. I laid off 13 people. So I cut 90 grand out of my payroll. That was 3 months before COVID. So God takes care of fools and children. But to get out of the hole, the only thing I could think to do was to earn my way out of it. And so I had 19 separate entities between vendors and suppliers and subcontractors that I owed money to. I made a spreadsheet with every one of them. I had the money I owed them on the spreadsheet, and I had about a 5-month repayment plan with the sales volume I would have to do to generate the kind of profits to cover overhead and get these guys paid back. I called every one of them. I had them all come to my office individually. We sat down in my conference room, I had the whole spreadsheet up on a big TV for my computer. And I said, see that yellow line right there, Dave? That's you. This is what I owe you. Oh, by the way, that's everybody else I owe. Here's the total. And here's my plan to get you paid back. And if it works for you, I'll do everything in my power to make sure that that happens. But I can't make it happen if you cut me off, or you won't do roofs for me, or you won't sell me material, or whatever the function was. So if you're in, tell me, and I'll do everything I can to make this happen. If you're out, tell me. Your line goes to red, and you're going to have to sue me, or you figure it out, because I'm going to take care of the people that'll help me. 19 in a row said, I got you. And I did it.
Now, you had built a relationship with them before, so you aren't bringing in people you've crapped on for 5 years and saying, okay, I need your help now, trust me.
It was the relationship capital, and it was more valuable than money, because I couldn't get money. Nobody would give me money. But every single person that I was doing business with that I owed money to, and it wasn't like, hey, I fell on hard times. It's like, I wasn't paying attention to the rumble strips. I was mashing the gas. I got out over my skis, and I spent your money on my shit. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bro, tough.
But you did it. You did it. And did that feel different than the 4 months that you had your head in your hands back so many years ago after the mortgage thing fell apart?
Exhilarating. Not just different. It was exhilarating. It was empowerment. We used to say, win the day, win the week, win the month. That was our goal. Got to win today. We win today. We do that for 5 days. We win the week. We win the week. We do that for 4 weeks. We win the month. We win 5 months. We're done. We win. And it was so fun. It was hard. It was real hard. But
you know what? There's no reward in what isn't hard, Jason.
Isn't that right?
Hard is uncomfortable because you're pushing beyond what you've been doing. But pushing yourself through that, you learn so many things about who you are. You find value in who you are. And I just bet that having come through that, you had a greater respect for yourself than you would have if you just filed bankruptcy and blew those people off and got some other suppliers and pounded.
The smartest money people I know said file bankruptcy. Happens all the time. Don't sweat it. No, everybody will understand. It's not a big deal. And I was like, it's a big deal to me.
Yeah. Integrity, which is rare.
Yeah.
So I think that we will call this show Integrity. And Jason, I thank you so much for taking it. It's been delightful. It's been so long since we talked.
Dude, great catching up.
Oh, yeah, it is wonderful catching up. And audience, please, would you give us a thumbs up? Would you please subscribe? Would you please share this with your friends? And if you have a guest that you think should be on our show, or if that guest is you, please come and tell me, because our goal is to share a message of prosperity and proper thinking, and to know that you are responsible for yourself and for spreading this message with others. Because as Jason says, it's the community that lifts us all up. Thank you very much for First Fusion Capital. Please look down below. And Jason, you can probably send me your email address if they'd like to get a hold of you for some roofing or maybe some personal counseling. I understand you went into that business now. So either one would be good. Thank you so much for your time, one, and everybody. We'll see you again. Be successful.